We are going to be talking Hulu. So we are live. So just want to welcome Mack.
Hi.
And Alex.
Hello.
So they have reviewed a couple shows that are coming to Hulu in the next 2 weeks. And so they're just gonna talk about it, and gonna go and ask some questions. Although we do have a comment, we could be doing better, perhaps on Main Street USA. Yes, we all wish we could be at either Disneyland or Disney World, but alas, we can't. So Disney Plus is great, but Disney also has Hulu for more adult-themed shows. In fact, one of the shows we're going to talk about today was designed for Disney Plus and is now on Hulu. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to get started with this show. So, Alex, talk about Crossing Swords.
Well, I like to call it Crossing S-Words because it's full of them. This is from two of the writers and the animation studio behind Robot Chicken, which I will say I've seen a few Robot Chicken sketches over the years, but I've never actually sat down to watch a full episode. I think the Star Wars sketches are the ones that are kind of the most famous from it. So going into it, I mean, I already expected kind of a South Park style comedy in it. And I will say I'm a fan of South Park. I don't watch it a lot, but, I would sneak into my room at night and watch South Park against my mom's wishes when I was in middle school, and I stayed with it pretty much all through high school. So I'm okay with that kind of humor. It doesn't offend me. That being said, Crossing Swords is extremely not funny. They are counting on an audience finding a medieval set piece hilarious because the characters swear every 2 seconds and get themselves into some really compromising positions. Another problem that I have with it is the characters look like Play School toys, and Play School toys, the little people, the Fisher-Price little people toys, they've changed over the time. Nowadays they have arms and they're plastic molded and they look a little bit different. But when we were kids, I think was when they started to transition, they were wooden and they were just a head and a little body that kind of got gradually smaller to simulate legs. And, they came with little cars with little circular holes. You could plunk them in. They had, houses and toys. So these characters are very much inspired by the original Fisher-Price Little People toys. So it's counting on some of that nostalgia. But one of the problems I have with it is that it looks so much like something that should be geared towards kids. And then you have a character, I think in the first episode even, end up in a BDSM dungeon. And so there's these little people toys essentially with a leather mask on with a zipper over the mouth. And like South Park does that same kind of comedy. Mr. Garrison and some of the other adult characters, you find them in some very compromising positions, but it was part of a bigger story that was still entertaining. And usually the way that they went about exploring some of those taboo elements led to some truly funny moments. Nothing in Crossing S-Words does that. I watched 2 of the episodes, didn't laugh once, and just kind of didn't understand the point. And that's what's really sad. And another thing that's really sad about it is they've dragged a lot of really great voice actors down with them, I think because they have a lot of friends through making the Robot Chicken show. But there's a lot of recognizable voices in the show, and probably the most problematic is Forky. Tony Hale, his basically naturally speaking voice sounds like Forky, and he's one of the main character's brothers. And so if you're a kid who happens to hear this through the walls or walks through the room as an adult is watching it, they're going to hear Forky's voice saying F-bombs. So I can't not recommend Crossing Swords enough. I thought it was absolute garbage. And honestly, Hulu has been on such a great streak with all of their original programming. And this one, it kind of made me lose faith in some of their decision making, to be honest.
Well,
I can't bash it enough.
Before we move on, it's not really on topic, but Gary is from Hungary, and he wants to know if the Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom will reopen on July 11th, and Hollywood Studios and Epcot will reopen July 15th, right? That is right.
Those are the dates that Disney has set.
However, advanced reservations will be required. So before you come in from Hungary, you might want to check, especially you want to check travel restrictions from your country, because you could come here and be stuck in your hotel room for 2 weeks. So
yeah, the recommendation is to visit Florida's coronavirus website. And if you go on Laughing Place, I think one of our top articles right now is Disney announcing some of their new plans for reopening Disney World. And Florida does have some restrictions. You could find yourself in a situation where you arrive in Florida and Florida says you have to quarantine for 14 days, in which case you won't be allowed on Disney property, not even to a resort room if you have a reservation. So definitely want to be very careful that you're following within those guidelines if you're traveling.
So next we've got, also premiering June 12th, is the next chapter in Into the Dark called Good Boy. Now, Into the Dark is supposed to celebrate a different holiday for each month. What holiday is this celebrating?
It is Pet Appreciation Week, which I am now just learning is a thing.
So tell me about Good Boy.
Yeah, so Good Boy is about a woman named Maggie, a middle-aged single woman who is dealing with a lot of anxiety. So she's instructed to adopt a dog to, help with her anxiety. And the dog doesn't turn out to be quite as sweet and innocent as you might think. Into the Dark has kind of hit a groove, or kind of gotten into a trend lately of these sort of fun, campy type horror movies now. And it varies on month to month. It kind of goes in and out, but more often than not, it's kind of hitting that sort of niche. And to be honest, this one I enjoyed. I thought it was pretty fun. It didn't end up being what I expected it to be, which is something that Into the Dark can kind of struggle with sometimes. It ends up being very predictable a lot of the time. This one wasn't so much. I really enjoyed it. It was fun. It was cheesy, but I think the best way I could describe it, as I did in my review, was it's delightfully cheesy. It's just kind of that, like I said, that fun, campy kind of horror. And it stars Judy Greer, which I think is, off the top of my head, probably the biggest name Into the Dark has had so far. Typically, they feature relatively lesser known actors, so it was really fun to see her, and she was great. So it was enjoyable.
So is the dog cute?
Very much so, yes. Until it's not.
Is it like one of those toys where you squeeze the side and it goes, like the eyes go down and the teeth come out?
That's a good way to put it. I think I was talking to Ben earlier about it, and if you can remember The Sandlot, any of the scenes with the Beast where it wasn't actually the dog, it looks pretty much just like that.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
I
love Judy Greer too, but I don't like
Yeah, well, that's another thing too. This isn't really like, if you're looking for like real, like true horror, if you want something to scare you, this isn't going to be that. Like I said, it's just fun. It's cheesy. Definitely not something for like a real hardcore horror fan.
Okay, back to Alex. There's 2 shows premiering the 19th, so like 2 weeks from now. First is Taste the Nation.
Yeah, with Padma
Lakshmi.
That's her. So she is, I've never watched it, but she's the host of Top Chef, and she's so charming and fun. Kind of her backstory, she immigrated to the U.S. with her family from India when she was 4, and she remembers kind of being exposed all of a sudden to all of this quote unquote American food. So really what the series is about is taking a closer look at how American food became American food. Padma Lakshmi from Top Chef. She travels all around the country and explores different cultural foods that found their way to the U.S. and how they've kind of all combined into what we now think of as American food. The first episode is more political than the other ones that I screened. It's in El Paso, Texas. So they're not only talking about, Mexican food and how El Paso sort of became the Ellis Island point of entry for a lot of Mexicans immigrating into the U.S., but also kind of the current political situation with the wall and families separated. So that one gets a little political. The second episode hit very close to home. I grew up 30 minutes outside Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and that one was all about the all-American hot dog. And so that one was really about the German settlers that really populated the Midwest and how hot dogs and hamburgers, two things that you associate very closely as American food items, are actually from Germany and have kind of evolved to fit American tastes. Other episodes include some Native American food. So there's an episode that's going to be in Arizona with some Native people. Also, the Gullah Gullah people of South Carolina is included there. I guess you could kind of consider that Native in many ways. Italian food, Chinese food, Japanese cuisine, all of that in this series. Each episode's 30 minutes. It will make you super hungry. In fact, I started watching it after lunch, so I'd already eaten. And by the end of the first episode in El Paso, I was really, really craving a burrito because that's what was invented in El Paso is the burrito, which now they're everywhere, but they kind of go through the evolution of the burrito when rice was added, when Chipotle and things like that came into the picture. So it's a really great show. I highly recommend it. It's light and it's fun, and because it's only 30 minutes, it's the kind of thing that's perfect for watching on like a lunch break if you're still working from home.
Cool. And then you got one more show you reviewed.
Yeah.
Which is this one, originally designed for Disney Plus, Love, Victor.
Love, Victor. And it's I would say set in the same universe as Love, Simon, but it's a different story. Not a lot of crossover with the characters, but there is some. It takes place at the same high school. Victor and his family moved from Texas to Atlanta, Georgia, and he first hears about Simon's story from the school principal, who's a teacher from the first film who's been promoted. Tony Hale played the principal in the Fox film. And this is from 20th century television and Hulu, and it moved from Disney Plus to Hulu. But I will say it's not extremely adult. It plays more like a teen romantic comedy, very much like Love, Simon. There's a little bit of language. There's some talk of sexual experiences, but nothing shown. So I think this would be PG-13 rated or below. And it's just a really nice coming-of-age story that happens to also be another coming-out story that evolves very differently from what you saw in Love, Simon, if you're a fan of that film. The other thing I'll say about it is because they allow that story to be told over 10 episodes, it allows them to take a lot more time with it and delve into some experiences that a lot of people in the LGBT community experience that Love, Simon, frankly, couldn't touch on in its 2-hour runtime. So that's another great show. And the other thing I'll say about it is I really love a lot of the casting, particularly the mom, who is the sister from Ugly Betty, which is one of my favorite ABC shows of the Disney era.
Great. So we've got 4 shows, 2 this week, 2 next week. Disney Plus has some new stuff too, including Artemis Fowl this week. So, and then later in the month, Into the Unknown, the making of Frozen 2. So lots to stream while we're slowly getting back to normal, and got about a month to go before the parks start to reopen. So thanks you guys for sharing your thoughts with me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you next time.